And all of that could have been complete bullshit. I don't know.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Deep Drop. Fishing podcast is what the Deep Drop is all about. Now, if some of you have been along for the journey so far, it's been quite the journey. It's been a long-ish, not in the scheme of the podcast world, but we've been around for a little bit now. And you would have heard the format that we've been running with, which is very much asking certain questions and then unpacking them. But, Adam, we've kind of just taken it back a little bit because we've had a few weeks off. Last week we got back into it. This week we're just still catching up on things, mate. There's still a lot to unpack about what we've been up to the last few weeks and just see what's going on in the world of fishing, mate.
Yeah, that's it. We haven't completely waved goodbye to the 3 questions per podcast. We got, heaps of questions and we're not going to run out of them, but we thought we'd muck around with something a little bit different. Look, I very much enjoyed last week. We've doubled down on talking shit and I think it worked.
Well, you know, ultimately it was very much just a catch-up session that we hit record on. So hopefully you enjoyed that. If you didn't, apologies. Might be change over your dial now. Nah, stick with us. Look, the thing is, we're talking about fishing and it's what we love to do. And I don't know, it's just been a bit of a crazy sort of, it's almost mid-year now, isn't it? It's not the start of the year anymore. Like we're really pushing into that mid-year sort of area, and it's a kind of, it can be a bit of a downer sometimes because we're getting into the colder months and so forth. But the beauty is we don't have to stop talking about fishing, and that's what I love about it. It just rolls on.
Still heaps going on.
It probably encourages more talk because there's less doing.
It's lucky we're not running solely a reports-based arrangement, Luke. Otherwise, we'd be pushing shit uphill, I reckon.
It would be. And look, I think we've spoken in the past about winter fishing and whatever, and I'm still a big fan, and I still get amongst it this time of year. I will say I did, and as you know, and people listening last week, been doing a bit of toing and froing from Queensland, and just for work and various sort of bits and pieces. I did sneak up there again last week, ads. It's not bad when you're hitting mid-20s just cruising around in, this time of year. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's awesome. But to you, it's not awesome getting off the plane when you touch back down in Melbourne and in the middle of Melbourne Airport, it's minus 1 degree.
It's hard. It hit, and I just did a whirlwind trip. I was up and back in 3 days or something. So it wasn't like I acclimatized and was really settling into the warmer.
Well, okay.
But it was when you do step off, you still go, I'm home.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'll kick this off. I've got a question for you. How do you prepare for the trip back? Do you stay in your Queensland gear and get on the plane and tough it out when you get to Melbourne? Or do you rug up in Queensland, sweat your nuts off so that you're sweet and good to go when you get off the plane at Melbourne?
It's a great call. I did it probably a month ago as well, and I did the old kept rocking the Queensland, and that was coming from Cairns too, so it was sort of 30 plus every day, and I kept the Queensland attire on, and when I got back and stepped off that plane, I went, that was a terrible mistake. So this time round, no, I had jeans. I think I had jeans and I had a jumper handy. But it's a good call because you're not quite sure what to sort of be prepared for. But anyway, it's good. It's good to be able to sneak up there. And do you know, actually, I got chatting to a couple of, as you know, I just love talking about fishing to anyone who will listen. I did get chatting to a couple of locals. So I was in and around the Gold Coast and then up around Brisbane and just sort of floating through that area. And I was chatting to a couple of guys just about fishing, and we just ended up talking about they do a bit of snapper fishing and whatever. Then they started talking about mud crabs, and they're like, oh, yeah, we just go out and drop a few pots and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, that's sweet. And then I started thinking, we've got it really good down here with bread and butter fish and tasty eating fish and whatnot. If we could somehow introduce mud crabs down south, we'd almost have the ultimate combo.
It's even weird though with our general table fish, because you wouldn't say they're excessively tasty.
Nah, true.
You know what I mean? Like the beauty of them is that they're quite mild and everybody can enjoy them. Yeah. There's nothing too offensive or over the top about them, which is great.
Yeah.
Mud crabs.
Muddies.
Imagine we had them.
Imagine that. And I know people like might listen and go, well, you can't because it's not the right term. We're not talking literally, but we're just saying imagine for a minute. Like if you could go drop a couple of pots on the shallow banks of, Middle Spit and come go for a bit of a whiting or a squid fish and then head back and grab the pots on the way in. Like, can you imagine?
Well,
what a luxury.
We kind of could, as in, obviously not for mud crabs, but do you think in Victoria we could sustain and handle being able to have our own cray pots? So a recreational fisher could have a license for X amount of pots and, you could go and, duck around the corner behind Phillip Island there, drop a couple of pots, go for a cruise around.
Can't you?
I don't think so.
I thought you could. Well, you have to be.
Oh no! Sorry. You can. No, you can't drop pots. You can dive for them.
Oh, okay.
As a wreck.
Oh,
but
sorry.
You're not allowed to have pots.
So the pots.
So down like at Port Mac and places like that.
Yep.
You can drop a couple of pots. Do you reckon it's a doable thing in Vic?
I guess I don't know, and I don't know enough about it, so I'm not a bit. I instantly just think, fucking, so many boats kicking around. Like, is it going to cause absolute carnage with props and ropes?
It will.
But because you see, if anyone who does head offshore, say out of Port Phillip Heads or anywhere down, like you obviously see some pots in the water and whatever, and you're conscious of them. But multiply that by 100, it might be a bit of a shit fest out there.
I wonder how many people would actually do it, because I do know for a fact that. Like, I do know for a fact the Victorian fisheries were and or are looking into it to see if it is a possibility. But I wonder how it would work. I kind of think though, if they were going to allow Rex to use cray pots, they maybe need to work out where that can be done within Western Port or Port Phillip proper as well, because I don't think you can collect them from in the bays. There's something to do with intertidal zones and bits and pieces. Because I've heard of people catching them on hook and like just a cray
inside the
grabbing
boat.
a bait every now and then in Western Port, and that's okay. But I don't think you can. Probably should have researched this.
Yeah, you brought.
I don't think you can dive for them. Within, I know.
Own it, mate. You got to own it.
Well, you started it with mud crabs.
Yeah, no, but I wonder because I just think offshore when I think about that stuff, and
yeah,
like I tip my hat regularly to divers out there. I have been asked, "Hey, do you want to come for a dive?" And I just think,
fuck no,
no, mate,
not about it.
No, I'm not about it. And like, hats off to you, and I will happily take that crayfish from your hands once you get back into the boat and take it home. But but no, I'm not getting in there.
I'm with you 100%. It hasn't even crossed my mind. Oh, maybe just not interested.
No, it's not interesting.
It's weird though, because it's not so much. Everyone thinks, once you start diving, you're just going to get eaten by a shark. It's not necessarily a shark thing. It's just kind of the whole deal. It's kind of the sharks mixed in with just throwing your arm into like a dark cave. Fuck that. Why would you?
It seems like, all right, I've just dived down, 20 meters. I'm near the sea floor. What shouldn't I do? Stick my arm into a cave hole. But fuck it, I'm doing it.
But then you've got those crazy bastards that start taking off dive gear to fit half of their body into a cave just to grab a cray. It'd want to be the biggest cray you've ever seen.
I get short of breath when I see that stuff, like in docos and that when they're getting into all the cave diving and all that stuff. I can't.
That's all crazy stuff.
I can't watch that stuff. But mate, hats off to those that do it, because obviously the bounty is plentiful and delicious.
So I'd want to be.
And if you're listening and you do this, get in touch. Tell us why.
Why? And just give us some cracking stories.
Yeah, there must be some good stories. There'd be some moments.
There'd be some belters.
I remember doing
some belters
podcast that I was producing for the VFA, and we spoke to, and I feel bad now, he's a great fella. He was an ab diver from down Port Fairy, and we caught up with him down there, and him and his daughter ran this ab diving business. And he was telling us some horrific stories of just some of the great whites and that he encounters regularly, and was like, nope. And he does the old, it's not the ones you can see that you worry about, mate. And I'm like, no, fuck that. I don't want to see them. That's even worse.
You've just made it worse.
Yeah, I don't even want to be in a boat anymore out there. But hey, someone's got to keep the seafood industry ticking along.
Each to their own.
Each to their own, indeed. But it's the closest I went was I dived at the Melbourne Aquarium. There's no craze.
Still, you know what? Still counts.
I had a look for a craze. Would have just grabbed one.
Yeah. There's a gnarly looking nurse shark with teeth hanging out of its mouth.
Yeah, which
still counts.
It still makes you feel
uneasy. But even the stingrays can be quite intimidating.
Yeah, I know stingrays, there's those big suckers. Always have this thing. I know they've got a barb and they can fuck you up, but I always think one day they're just going to swim over the top of you and just smother you against the sea.
Smother you? Yeah, that's right.
That's not a way I want to go.
What a shit way to go.
Yeah. I don't think that's probably ever happened, and I hope it hasn't, but I just, nightmare type shit.
Seems like it could, though.
Far out. Unbelievable. Hey, I was thinking tonight, because I know we're not doing our set regular questions ads, but we throughout the week had a number of messages again, and we always love hearing our messages from you guys out there, just with thoughts and feelings and questions and anything. And sometimes it is just hey, loving the show, blah, 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 blah. That's great. That means so much, and we genuinely appreciate that. But we also, in the mix, get some questions suitable to the deep drop sort of style ads. And we got one this week, and I thought, you know what? Let's bring it up. Let's do it. So question without notice for you, because I didn't even tell you we're going to do this. But now this was on Luke Smith on Instagram, and I really like this, and this is a thought provoker for sure. And anyone out there listening, get in touch, because I think this is a cracker. So thank you, Luke, for the question. Great name, by the way. Love it. If you don't catch your target species, is it a donut, even if you get bycatch? So if you get plenty of bycatch, but it's not what you're after, is it a win or a loss? Fail or a pass?
I think it depends on what the bycatch is. If you're whiting fishing and get 6 toadies and 3 leather jacket, it's a donut.
Well, that's, yeah. Okay, so you're sort of saying there's some situations that it's passable.
But if you were snapper fishing and got 3 gummies and a whiting, you're not claiming that as a donut. You're just claiming that as you went for a gummy fish.
Yeah, that's right. I think that you've hit the nail on the head there. You're changing the story really quickly as to why you're out
real
there.
Quick.
But it's a great one, though, isn't it?
It is.
I'm just trying to think of a few situations that I've been in. I remember having a terrible day perch fishing with a bloke we used to work with, Trav, one day.
Yep.
He and I fished really hard for perch one day, and all we could get were Australian salmon, and as many as you want. And if you really wanted to, you could probably lighten up and have a bit of fun. But it was almost worse than a donut. It was like insulting, rubbing it in that we were getting all these shit fish that we're just not interested in.
Well, that leads perch. It leads me to another question, but we'll come back to it because it's straying too far from the path we're talking about. But remind me to talk about Australian salmon.
Sure.
It's weird because I think it comes down to the quality. Every piece of my being wants to go, if it wasn't the target species, it doesn't count. But there is situations where the bycatch is almost better than, like, if you were sitting in Western Port of a night time in the middle of snapper season, doing an overnighter, nice warm balmy night, you've got a rack of 6 snapper baits out and an 18-kilo mulloway eats one of those snapper baits, you're sure as shit claiming it.
Oh, mate, you're not.
And I wouldn't fight you on it.
I would, if it's something like that, I wouldn't even try and say that I was dewy fishing. I would say I was snapper fishing, and guess what I got?
Yeah, for sure.
I wouldn't try and, I would just say, how good is this?
Yeah, can't believe it. I did a mulloway session, caught 8 snapper.
What if you...
And then got a mulloway.
If you were fishing East Gippsland, bream, that's what you went out to target, and you happen to get a 80 centimeter, 90, even a metery flathead. Is the story you donutted on brim, but you got a flatty, or is it just like all about the flatty?
No, I reckon. Oh. No, I don't know, because I think when it comes to like a trophy bycatch, that's a whole different ball game again.
True. Yeah.
I think that's when you're happy to say this was, well, some people, but some people wouldn't. But I'd say no, this was bullshit. I wasn't chasing this at all.
Yeah. I think when it's a banger like that, you sort of go, you know what, guilty, wasn't chasing it, but I'll take it. Yeah,
but it never happens the other way. Like you never go to say Lake Tyers trying to like targeting big flatties and you don't get one, but you get a couple of 35s and half a dozen brim. You don't come back going, oh yeah, no, it was a belter of a trip. We didn't get any flatties, but we got, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's funny, isn't it? Like, and I think that estuary sort of thing is a good example of like how if you're going out for the day and you sort of go, well, you know, hopefully we'll get a few brim, flatties, we'll chase this, do a bit of this and mix it up. And you happen to get a mixed bag, you kind of forget about what you're even targeting in a way, like because you probably targeted different things at different points of the tides and time of the day. But like a good example of this answer to this question could be, I mean, tournament fish. Like if you're in a flathead comp, you might catch the world record mulloway, brim, estuary, everything under the sun except a flathead. The scoreboard says 0. The scoreboard says a big fat 0 on it.
Yeah, and unless it's a bycatch of a mulloway and an estuary system, no one gives a shit about the rest of it. Like if you were, you know what I mean? If you're in a flatty comp and you hooked a 50 centimetre, 55 centimetre perch on a flatty plastic, no one cares. But if I was out brim fishing, just dropping an 80 mil wriggler onto a snag and ripped a 55 perch, everyone would be high-fiving you.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's all in the mind.
It is. It's all perception.
So, I mean, it's hard to answer that because there's different angles on it. But if you don't catch your target species, is it a donut, even if you got bycatch?
I'm trying to think of an example that would be like easily done plenty of times. So, all right, so say you went, you're whiting fishing, all right? You've pushed the kayak in off the beach down your way, Luke. You're out there specifically going for whiting, and you don't get one. But you get a couple of 45 centimetre, like perfect pan-sized pinkies and a flatty that goes 60 odd, which happened to you recently. Not the pinkies. You did get some whiting, but you also got a banger of a flatty.
Yeah.
Say on that trip where you were fishing for whiting, take the whiting out, you didn't get one, but you got a 60 plus centimetre flatty. Are you claiming success?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's probably not a good example because a 60 plus centimetre flatty
but say a couple
legit.
of 35, 40s that are nice fish for a feed. I don't know. I guess success comes in all shapes and sizes, Adam, and I'm willing to take it.
But you weren't targeting them.
Nah, so probably not because I was targeting whiting. Great question. I actually really like this question. I'd love to hear.
It's quite a complex answer, isn't it?
So I'd love to hear people's thoughts on this. So jump on Instagram, tell us what you think. If you don't catch your target species, is it a donut?
Is it a donut?
Bycatch, even if you get bycatch. Let us know what you reckon. I'm a bit torn on this, but I'm probably. I think unless it's a tournament, I think you can celebrate.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's where I'm leaning to.
Anyway, good one, and thanks, Luke, for that question. That's a ripper. I love that. I'm sure we'll get more, and we actually have had more. We should get stuck into some of the other listener questions over the next few weeks. Ads, just on that, you sparked something for me there, and talking about the whiting fishing that I've been doing of late, and got a nice surprise flatty the other day, mate. I'm just all about the turtleback worms. I just can't get enough of fishing soft plastics for King George whiting, and you'll do nothing that will be able to convince me otherwise. It's unbelievable, and I'm not going to try and sit here and say I invented it. I've learnt from some local experts down here, but gee whiz, new ball game changer. Dare I
Well,
say it?
you and I have discussed this topic privately for a little while, and our last conversation on it was around that time where you got that good flatty, like a proper one. But we started going down the thought process of how soft plastics fishing for King George whiting, could that lead us into a new wave of soft plastics fishing and fishermen? Do you think, I've never done it, so I've never caught King George whiting on anything but bait. No bycatch, no accidentally hooking one fishing for something else on a vite, none of that.
No, and so I hadn't until this year.
Yeah, but you've seen now not only being taught, but done it solo, and I think it's safe to say it's a thing. I don't know in what aspect. You'd be better at answering this than I am, but is it something that's so you can do it so confidently? Could it actually become, like I said, a thing? As in this, can it spark a new wave of soft plastics fishermen that will go and target King George whiting on a session specifically, just taking soft plastics, and there being a little bit of a boom in Victoria on it?
I think it could. I do think that it is one of those things, and I won't deny it. If you find fish, and I'm just floating around on a kayak, so I didn't have it in the last couple of times I've done it. I haven't got electric motors or anchors or anything to sit on a patch, but paddling around, found some fish and get the bites. I won't deny it. You'll get more with bait, and I think that's probably what it'll come down to. Like ultimately with a whiting, they're not a sports fish, so to speak. So I think people are fishing for them to get a bag of fish for a feed. A lot of it comes down to everyone's time poor as well. So a lot of anglers only get a small window to go out for a fish. So, it's that same old thing. And it's like we've spoken about before with different lures for whether it be a kingfish or snapper and whatever it is. Like, do you do that and risk only getting a few as opposed to potentially getting your bag? Whiting's one that I just think people just want numbers. Like it's not, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but which I agree with, but at its core, as in there's heaps of species which I think the success rate fishing bait would be massive. And I'll use brim, for example.
Yep.
Oh. I think the best way to get them is to fish bait. Yep. I never, ever do, though. No. Do you think whiting could be something that not so much the existing whiting fishermen that have been doing it for forever, just catching a bag. Do you think if there's an upcoming generation of fishers that could get that way? Like, is it reliable? Like, could you, in your experience, would you say, oh, no, you can tools down and just take a 2 to 4, 1 to 3 kilo soft plastics outfit and legitimately go and catch half a dozen whiting?
100%. And based on the small amount that I've been doing, because I know that some friends down this way that might be listening have done it a shitload more than I have and would be well more qualified to answer it. But from my personal experience, after I've had a couple of good sessions with some of the really good anglers down here, and then I've done it solo, I've been really confident that it's the same. I suppose there's the same thing with bait fishing, is you got to find them first, sort of thing, right? So, but if you know they're in the area, or they should be in the area, 100%. I'm all in. There's certain factors of it that I think would probably not appeal to everyone, but then there's elements of it that I think, and we've spoken about this heaps on this show, where at the moment pretty much the only solid soft plastic option that will regularly get fish are those turtleback worms that I talk about. But I reckon it's got the perfect setup for people to start experimenting and potentially find something that's even more deadly. And we just don't know yet. And this is where I'm like, it's kind of exciting. And like I said, mate, there's people down here that do it heaps. And I'm not going to try and say that it's some brand new craze. Like people do it and do it well. I'm just new to this area. So I've just sort of jumped on the bandwagon, so to speak. But I would struggle, not struggle, that's a lie, but I would say that would be my preference now for multiple reasons. One is, I'm confident with it. I think I can go out onto whiting grounds and confidently get fish. Second part of it, and probably most important part of it for me, is that it is way more exciting. It's fun. It is constant. Your hands on. You're non-stop. It's action. And I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like these fish, and we all know, like catching them on bait, they've got a bit of a fight in them. You know, when they hit a plastic, it's like that energy in that fight is twofold, like doubled. Like it's crazy. Like you're talking about stripping meters and meters of line, and it's like just tearing off the reel, like at a massive rate of knots, where you start going, oh, it's a salmon or something that screams off like that, and then nope, it's a big fat chunky old whiting.
Well, I've got a theory on that because I think that's legitimately a thing. It's the same catching snapper on soft plastics compared to catching on the bait. You swear they hit harder. It's the same with catching a brim in a snag. I think that fight is harder and more exciting on a soft plastic than it is, say, putting a prawn, like a dead prawn, into the same snag. And I think my reasoning for that is if you're lure fishing, that fish that's eaten that specific soft plastic is hunting, and it's hunting hard. If you've got a pippy on the bottom, using the King George whiting example, you don't know how many times that fish has swum around that pippy and it's just foraging in the sand for whatever it can find, and it picks up the scent of that bait and then isn't quite sure, or
it fucks around with it for a little bit.
That's right. Whereas, but with a moving plastic, it's commit or not. So it's fully commit, or you're just not going to get a chance at hooking it.
But like to expand on that, even like I've had them come at it. Like as you're winding in the plastic, you thinking, oh, it might have bitten that in half or whatever. So you start, and it follows it up. I had a whiting the other day fully swipe at the plastic on the surface, and we're talking in a couple of meters of water. No, it's not deep, but for a King George whiting that you associate with purely a bottom feeding fish, this thing followed it up and attacked it all the way, basically to the boat. Had its last swipe to the point where its tail was out of the water while it was swimming back down to the bottom. Like, all of a sudden, it's just ignited a new, like, a bit of energy or aggression in these fish. I'm like, holy shit, what's going on here? It was incredible.
Well, because I reckon that those moving lures and plastics, they must just stimulate the fish in a different way. If they want to eat it, it must trigger a real aggressive feeding response. Whereas with a bait, they can choose when to eat it or not, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas with the soft plastic, if they want to eat, they got to go. Now, whether that means following the plastic back to the boat, whether that means because rarely do you wind in a pippy to check the bait and have a King George whiting follow it. Like, I'm sure it happens, but you're not triggering that feeding response. You're just putting a bait on the bottom and hoping that you're in a school of whiting that are got their noses down and are picking stuff out of the sand.
What I would love to test the theory on is potentially some thin profile, slim profile plastics, like little flick baits and those sorts of things, to see if, because originally I was always sort of like, okay, the worm profile is kind of just what, and it's, you just work it slowly, if at all, but not at all. Like, it's a full blown work in a soft plastic, like, can be aggressively, and they're just smashing it to pieces. I'm wondering whether like if it's a little flick bait style or profile, they'd still, I'm confident in saying I reckon they'd still have a crack. So I'm going to put that theory to the test. I'd like to have a go and see what I can get them on. Bit of a challenge.
It's really interesting. It's piqued my curiosity on that.
I even wonder whether you get them on like little soft vibes, just purely with the vibration, the action. I don't know. I'm just
potentially. I wonder how spooky they are to a more aggressive lure like that, as in something that's throwing out a lot of vibration. It needs to be worked.
Too much, do you mean? Like if it's I don't know, but after seeing and being like fishing a few sessions on these fish with these plastics, I've just been really surprised. So I'd be surprised if they were put off by too much, but I mean, I'm not going to throw a 250 gram knife jig down there and see if I can hook one, but
Come on, live a little.
live a little. Come on, have a crack. But again, and look, there's probably people listening too that have done this for years, and I sound like a complete amateur. That's fine.
I know, and please chime in. Yeah, because I've never done this, and I know there's heaps of anglers out there that have caught King George whiting on soft plastics, and not just turtleback worms. Like, remember the old Storm twitch and nippers, the little, the little bass yabby imitations. I know they've probably been caught on 2-inch grubs.
Yeah,
they've obviously been caught on gulp worms or any worm plastic. But I'd love to. I'm curious. I'm interested in the conversation. I wonder if it has potential to become
a thing.
An actual thing. But you're right. I think it needs more than maybe one lure that can get them. I think a lot of people will get bored of it pretty quick.
Maybe. I don't know.
But it's weird though, because it's not like a turtleback worm is a new soft plastic to the market.
No,
it's been around as long as gulp plastics have been available in Australia. King George whiting have been around even longer. You can't tell me. You know what I mean? Like, you can't tell me.
Yeah,
it hasn't been done.
Yeah. Nah, but it's and there's lots of other things in whiting territory that eat those sorts of plastics too, and flathead are just one of them, and they'll eat pretty much most soft plastics. But
but they don't count though, because you're targeting King George whiting.
Sorry, of course, but I don't know. It's certainly opened up a new thing for me. Ads, I think I've run you. I think I've called you every time I've done it. I'm like, dude, this is sick.
Yeah. I love it though.
It's what I love is seeing, and I speak about this regularly, and to you, but also I think I have on this podcast quite a fair bit too, that fishing is a fashion industry for so much of
massive.
it. And you and I are still involved in the tackle industry itself, and we see the crazes and the fads come and go, and I love it because I just my bank account doesn't love it, but I love it because it keeps you on your toes, because you're like, someone will bring something out. It might be like this year with the tuna, the Maria popper.
Yeah,
that's
the pop queens.
The pop queens, like, holy shit. And I'm not, and again, like, it's just stood out this year, and it's become, certainly in Victoria. So if there's people listening in New South Wales or South Australia or even Queensland, like, maybe it's still a bit of a no name or whatever, a foreign sort of, but this pop queen, this Maria pop queen, has taken the tuna fishery in Victoria by storm, and it's...
Well, do you know the best thing about it? For me, the 100% best thing about it, we talked ourselves into, from the start of these bluefin turning up outside of Port Phillip Heads, which has been going for quite a few years now, the bluefin here isn't a new thing anymore. It's still developing, but it's not a new thing.
No.
Because of the size of the fish, the automatic response of everybody, from someone who's never game fished before to those who fish out west every year looking for these 100 kilo plus fish, the whole thought process was they're small fish, so downsize everything. So when I was at the shop, we were selling a ridiculous amount of 4-inch skirts.
The little octo skirt things.
Yeah, any of the casting stuff was, 100 mil max.
Yep.
Yet this pop queen comes along that's like 170 mil long.
Yeah.
And though it's a thin profile, it's not a pencil. So everyone's assumed we need to downsize to catch these fish in Victoria. But yet all of a sudden, fucking Mitch Chapman comes along with a 170 mil popper.
But I got to.
No, and listen, in fairness, it's not an aggressive popper. It's not a big GT throw bullshit amounts of water. It's a subtle popper, but it's not small.
It's borderline that cross between those stick bait sort of shallow cup. But I've got a question for you on this, right? And because everyone choosing to go small is justified, because the bait's small, right? For the most part, what they're eating is small in a lot of cases. So we've grown up with the idea of match the hatch. So everyone going small makes perfect sense. Made it hard. There was challenges involved in that, because how do you run heavy gear with a tiny little fucking white skirt?
Yeah.
So with that, right? And we know that the majority of what they're feeding on, certainly in close, like you see it sprayed around all over the place, is that small bait fish. So why then are they attacking these bigger lures so aggressively? Is it just a reaction bite? And by that I mean they just see a bit of commotion and just have a crack at it?
Yep, because I don't think you're purposely trying to present something to them that matches the hatch, so to speak. I think you're trying to create chaos. So that popper that's 170 mil long, that fish is not, I don't think, is not necessarily seeing one 170 mil long fish. It's seeing the spray that popper's causing, which could be a school of 3-inch whitebait that's being showered by, and it's triggering a response to don't think, just feed.
So what, they're just swimming up at 1,000,000 miles an hour with their mouth open and
crashing it.
Crashing it.
They're just seeing where the splashes come from, which means that something's out of the water, something's happening, and away they go. Because that you can on certain days tow around 180 mil diver and not see a fish, yet put a 4-inch skirt out next to that diver and catch 6 tuna on it, catch nothing on the diver. Yet you then go and put 180 mil popper there. I think it's just a different thing. You're creating a chaos bite. You're just creating this intense reaction to turn around and eat them, because especially with the season just gone, there were days out there, from what I understand, I didn't do any of it, but talking to Mitch about it a lot, who basically solely did it on top water and caught like in ridiculous amounts of bluefin. There were days where he would see people back at the ramp who were just trolling and didn't turn a reel. Yet he's caught 8 fish, released 6 and kept it. Like, it's a different thing. I think you're appealing to a different sense. And I don't think they're necessarily trying to eat 180 mil meal. I think they're associating the splash that popper's making to a shower of small fish as they're already in a feeding frenzy.
Well, fuck me. Adam, you've gone full cross Attenborough fucking scientist mode there. That's intense.
And all of that could have been complete bullshit. I don't know. But I'm really trying to work out why they would eat a 180 mil popper when they won't eat a 180 mil diver on any given day. It makes no sense to me. There has to be a reason.
No, it's spot on. That's why I posed the question, because it is an interesting one, and it's probably across the board. There's probably other species similar where you sort of go, why are they eating that if their actual target food isn't really anything like that? Like, I even think...
it's weird.
I even think, to a degree, like, say, and we've done a lot of it together, jigging for kingfish, right? Like, what the jig itself, what's it representing? Because you are jigging a school of fish that you know are feeding on slimies or yakkers or like a hard bait fish, right? Then you're dropping this slim profile metal jig up and it making this vertical up and down action. Like, surely that's just a, what the fuck is that? I'm just going to go eat it type bite. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know there's an argument that kind of can look like squid or something like that, but there's no fish swimming around doing the action that a metal jig is doing.
No, but again, I think it's kind of like the popper thing. You're trying to trigger a response that those fish can't handle. They can't control it. There's chaos going on, which means there's something in trouble. And that's what the lateral lines on all these fish are doing. They're picking up senses of struggling something, which means it's an easy meal. I don't think any of these fish want to work too hard. I mean, I don't think a bluefin wants to swim around at max capacity for 5, 6, 8 minutes on end trying to round up these fish. I think they want one short burst, get a meal, relax, wait for the bait to settle, another short burst. And it's the same with kingfish. I mean, I don't think a kingy wants to chase a salmon around Port Phillip Bay for 3 days trying to eat it.
No.
I think it's just waiting for that chaos trigger to go, there's heaps here, which means short burst, easy meal.
So I wonder
again, Could be wrong.
No, I like it, mate, and you own it. You're making really good sense over there, ads. Just, but I wonder if, like, you know, and again, this is just swapping to another species and putting you on the spot again, but I wonder if that's the case with a fish like a Murray cod, right? Because, and the reason I ask that is, like, some of the lures, the top water lures, for example, that are stunning, look amazing, and people handcraft, hand paint, spend days creating, whether it's really worth it. Like, based on your theory there, or you just need something that causes a bit of commotion, and it could be the ugliest thing in the world.
I think it's a different aspect again when you talk Murray cod, because they're not a pelagic.
Yeah, right.
Like a pelagic species just flat out froths on chaos. They don't stop moving. They won't sit in a snag and mooch around. They're always on the move. So you have to trigger a chaos frenzy. Otherwise, they're happy just to swim.
Yep. Nah, fair.
But say a Murray cod, for example, sits in its hole or has its little bit of the bank that it patrols, and they're always calculated.
Yeah.
I think it's harder to trigger some sort of chaos bite out of one of those fish. But that's been one of the biggest learning curves to, say, the winter impoundment cod fishery.
Yep.
Because have you noticed the swim bait thing, though swim baits have been a thing for years, you don't hear too many people saying they got to meet a cod in the middle of summer when they're the most active on a swim bait.
True.
And I think it's just a whole different thing. I mean, take a Murray cod. They obviously need warmth to keep the metabolism fired up. They're not an active species like any of the pelagics out of shore. In those cooler months, the metabolism slows down. They don't have as much energy. They're a big fish by nature. Why would they want to try and eat 6 small meals and exert energy they don't have, or they can eat one big meal once, and sit back in their hole and get it done.
Did you see the video that Bill Klassen posted recently, or one of the AFN guys, with the cod eating that bird in the dam?
No.
Those cod are... They're
savages,
savage beasts of things. They just eat. They just see and live through their stomach, don't they?
Yeah, 100%.
Everything, unbelievable. But yeah, I was chowing down on a full duck, I think it was, or something. No, seriously, it was incredible. Something big, and just wolfed it down. Anyway, I know that whole lure piece is just, and this is why we love it, mate. It's because it's not really something that anyone's clocked. And I mean, people have picked up on trends that have worked well, like you're saying with whether it be the tuna or the kingfish, whatever it is. But, mate, the next season will probably bring something different, you know. And next season, by next season, I mean next season of fish, but also next season of lures, you know. Like there's new waves that come through that just, you know, something works, or something. It might even be a colour of, you know, something, whether it's a soft plastic for brim or snapper or, you know.
Well, then see the next wave. This is the exciting thing. What is it? Is it something we haven't seen yet, or is it something that will naturally gain popularity? Because sticking with the theme of the bluefin have been thick as thieves down at Portland and Warrnambool, Port Fairy for years.
Ages.
Like,
yeah,
as long as we've been in the industry. No one talked about catching them on poppers until they turned up locally. Yet now all of a sudden, on any given day, it can be more effective than towing around a skirt. Is that because it's shallower water here? Is it because there's a temperature difference and those fish are more active?
Do you know what I think
they're
it is?
Hunting something different?
Do you know what I reckon it is? I reckon because closer to home here, closer to Melbourne, typically you're able to change lures without vomiting over the side of the boat when you're fishing down in 9 metre swell off fucking Portland. Jesus Christ.
It's a good call. It's a good call.
What? Why did the greatest thing those fish ever did was show up here? Like, oh, thank God for that. Nah, there's still some. I tell you that West Coast is still. I'm saying, and I might be slammed for it, but still the home of the big, consistently big fish.
Oh yeah, I don't even think it's close.
Yeah, which is awesome. It's awesome that there's kind of that, not the separation, but that, you know, you sort of think about it, go, oh, we want to go big. Typically let's have to go west, and I reckon it's cool. Victoria just dominating. What? Sorry. We'll cut that out and just put it for our Victorian audience. Ads, we should wrap up, mate. We've got a lot to do. And again, we mentioned last week a little something on the horizon. Now, we're not going to dive into it too much because it's still fresh and still just on the horizon.
We're still not in a position to give it away yet.
It's ticking along.
Yeah.
It's ticking along, my friend. It's going to be a bit of fun. So stay tuned and tell all your friends. The Deep Drop is where you need to put your attention when it comes to listening to fishing podcasts, that's for sure. I may be biased, but I think it's a good show. Oh, it's getting late. But thank you again, everyone, for joining us. It's been a lot of fun. It's been good catching up again, Ads, and it's starting to feel like now I've seen you a couple of weeks in a row, I can have another break from you. No.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see you in 6 weeks.
No, it's all good. Hey, but if you want to join in the conversation with any of the stuff we've been talking about, or you've got better things that you think we should be talking about,
which I'm sure there is,
please get in touch. And the best way to do it is via Instagram, the Deep Drop on Instagram. You'll see our bright green logo, and mate, just shoot us a message. Anything you want, anything that you want to get off your chest, whether you want us
tell us we're wrong.
Yeah, tell us we're wrong, because we are. Most of the time. Or there's something you want us to talk about on the show like we got tonight. That's always fun too. So there it is. Share the show with your friends. Tell them to have a bit of a listen and just enjoy fishing for what it is. We just love it. We're going to be back. See you, Ads.
See you, mate. It was a pleasure.
That's a lie.